can you start to lay the groundwork for us for what ESG is?
Sure, absolutely. So ESG is a buzzword, for sure. If you haven't heard ESG, I'd be surprised. But it's also an acronym, and it stands for Environmental, Social, and Governance. And ESG is a framework. It's a framework to give investors so that investors understand a company's true impact and the risks and responsibilities that go along with serving the greater ecosystem. So, what that means exactly, E, environmental, that includes things like the carbon footprint, energy efficiency, deforestation, clean air, clean water. That's all under the E umbrella. The S, which is where I spend most of my time, is social. And that includes a lot of the stuff we've been talking about the last couple days, DEI, human rights, ethical supply chain, health equity, things that are really about the impact of companies on people and communities. And then finally, governance, which is really how do we operate. So that would include things such as executive compensation or board composite. This is different. So for a long time, people talked about CSR. They talked about corporate social responsibility. Now, that was a way for companies to say, hey, we really care about our communities, we're really involved. But for a long time, for a lot of companies, that meant Monday through Friday, they did their work. On Saturday, they would wear their company branded t-shirts, and they would go volunteer together. And that's how they did that. It was very separate. So a metaphor that I like to use, I don't know if any of y'all like to cook. I love to cook. And when I started cooking, and I would why do I need to put salt in the salt water when I boil my pasta? It doesn't make any sense. Why can't I just put it on at the end? Well, if you know how to cook, you know that you do that to get the salt into the pasta. And that is where we see ESG going. It's no longer just something you do separately. It's something that really needs to be part of your business strategy. It's embedded in how you do business.
Well, I love to cook too, and I put salt and water, the pasta water, into my pasta too, and it makes all the difference.
Yes, it does. It
sticks all together.
Yeah.
So Zoe, tell us, is ESG a fad, or is it here to stay?
So that's a great question. And I think along with, is this a fad, we also hear, is this government overreach? And the answer to both of those is no, it's not. And here's why. So if you look at where the pressures are coming from ESG, they are coming from a variety of sources. So let's start with corporate investors. So beginning of this year, you had BlackRock, Fidelity, State Street saying, hey, we want to know what the composition of your board of directors. What does that look like? How diverse is it? Give us a sense of that. Be transparent. We're going to call you on it. So you had corporate investors. You have individual investors. You have people, especially, you find this to be somewhat generational, people saying, I want to invest in companies that align with my values. Well, how do I know if they align with my values? I go on their website. I read their 10Ks. I see what they actually are saying about their company. And I ask enough questions. You have activist investors as well. So you see a lot from the investor community. In addition, you see employees, and we've been talking a lot about this too, but current employees say, I want to work for companies that align with my values. Future employees say that as well, and they will call you on it. So you see that individuals, people as investors, people as employees, consumers, that consumers are also saying, and it has actually changed some markets where consumers have said it's important to me that the companies where I buy products and services align with my values. So you look at all this, and then you have the SEC. And you have the SEC saying, wait a second, there are risks. If our job is to ensure faith in the capital markets, I have to know what those risks are. And those risks could include not just financial risks, but also reputational risks. Are you using child labor? If so, you need to be transparent about that because that's a problem. So the reason it's not a fad, and it's not, I mean, we do see there's obviously, a government element to it, but that's so secondary. That really a lot of the regulation reflects public sentiment more than it drives public sentiment. So the fact that it's being driven by so many different stakeholders, it's not going anywhere.